The moment 4-year-old. Emma tugged on her mother's sleeve and pointed across the crowded cafe. Time seemed to fracture. Sarah followed her, daughter's trembling finger, to a man in an expensive suit sitting alone by the window, his face buried in his laptop. "Mom," Emma whispered, her voice carrying that peculiar certainty only children possess. "That's the man from my dream." The words hung in the air like suspended snow. Sarah's blood ran cold, not because she believed in premonitions or fate, but because for the past 3 weeks, Emma had been waking up screaming about the sad man who needed help. Night after night, the same dream. A man in a dark suit, a little girl with a yellow flower, and always, Emma would wake up crying, saying she had to find him before it was too late. Across the cafe, Marcus Chen stared at his laptop screen without seeing it. The email from his lawyer sat unanswered. Final offer from the board: resign quietly or face public. Termination. 20 years of building his company from nothing, gone in a single vote. His mind kept circling back to the bottle of pills in his briefcase and the insurance policy that would at least leave something for his elderly mother. No family, no real friends, just business associates who'd vanished the moment his fall began. The cafe receipt in his pocket felt heavy with finality. This would be his last coffee. His last morning, his last... "Excuse me, sir." Marcus looked up to find a woman in her 30s standing beside his table, a small girl half hidden behind her legs. The woman's face was flushed with embarrassment, but her eyes held something else: urgency. "I'm so sorry to bother you," Sarah said, her heart pounding. This was insane. She was a practical person, a nurse who dealt in facts and science, not dreams and destiny. But Emma's nightmares had been so vivid, so persistent. "This is going to sound absolutely crazy, but my daughter, she's been dreaming about you." Marcus blinked. Of all the things he'd expected on his last day on Earth, this wasn't it. "I'm sorry, what?" Emma stepped forward, her small hand clutching a crumpled dandelion. She must have picked from the planter outside. "You're the sad man," she said simply, holding out the yellow flower. "I kept seeing you in my dreams. You were crying. You needed someone to give you this." Something in Marcus's chest cracked. He stared at the child, at the wilted flower, at the impossible moment unfolding before him. His hand moved automatically to accept the dandelion, and as his fingers closed around the stem, a single tear rolled down his cheek. The first he'd shed in the 3 months since his world collapsed. "I don't understand," he managed. "Neither do I," Sarah admitted, sliding into the chair across from him without invitation. Some nurse's instinct told her this man was drowning, and you didn't ask permission to save a drowning man. "But my daughter has been waking up every night for weeks, terrified because she couldn't find you. She said you were very sad and that you needed to know someone cared. I know it sounds insane. I'm honestly questioning my judgment right now, but..." She gestured helplessly at her daughter, who was watching Marcus with those ancient, knowing eyes that some children possess. Marcus set the flower carefully on the table beside his laptop. His hands were shaking. "I was just..." He couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't admit what he'd been planning. But somehow, looking at this child who dreamed about a stranger's pain, the words came anyway. "I was having the worst day of my life. Actually, the worst 3 months. I lost my company, my reputation, everything I worked for. And I was sitting here thinking that maybe it would be easier if I just..." "Don't," Emma said firmly, with the authority of someone much older. "That's what you were thinking in my dreams, too. But then I gave you the flower and you smiled. You have to smile now. That's how the dream ends." Sarah's medical training kicked in. She recognized the signs, the exhaustion, the isolation, the flat affect beneath his expensive clothes. "When's the last time you talked to someone?" she asked gently. "I mean, really talked, not just business?" Marcus thought about it. His ex-wife had left years ago. His mother was in a nursing home, her dementia too advanced for real conversation. His therapist appointments had stopped when he could no longer afford them. "I honestly can't remember," he said. What happened next defied everything Marcus thought he knew about human nature. Sarah didn't leave. She ordered him breakfast. "You look like you haven't eaten properly in days," and while Emma colored on napkins with crayons, the cafe owner donated, Sarah simply listened. Not with judgment or advice, just pure, present listening. Marcus found himself talking. About building his tech company in his garage at 23. About the hostile takeover by board members he'd trusted. About the smear campaign that destroyed his reputation overnight. About watching his dream become a nightmare and feeling utterly, completely alone. "You know what I learned as a nurse?" Sarah said when he finally fell silent. "The body can survive incredible trauma, but isolation kills faster than any disease. You're not alone anymore. I don't know why my daughter dreamed about you, and honestly, it still freaks me out a little. But maybe, just maybe, the universe has a weird way of connecting people who need each other." "I don't need charity," Marcus said, but the words lacked conviction. "It's not charity. It's humanity." Sarah pulled out her phone. "I'm going to give you my number, and you're going to text me every day for the next week. Just one word, okay, that's all. So I know you're still here. Can you do that?" Marcus looked at Emma, still drawing intently, her tongue poking out in concentration. The wilted dandelion sat between them like a tiny yellow lighthouse. Something in him that had been ready to shut down flickered back to life. "Why?" he whispered. "Why would you care about a complete stranger?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Because 6 years ago, I was a complete stranger standing on a bridge at 3 in the morning, and another complete stranger stopped their car, walked over and said, 'Hey, I don't know what you're going through, but I know that feeling. Want to get pancakes instead?' That stranger saved my life. I never even learned their name, so now I pay it forward. We all should." The cafe bustled around them. People absorbed in their phones and laptops, unaware of the quiet miracle taking place in the corner. Marcus typed Sarah's number into his phone with trembling fingers. Emma looked up from her drawing and pushed it across the table. A stick figure. Man holding a yellow flower, surrounded by sunshine and hearts. "That's you when you're not sad anymore," she explained. 3 months later, Marcus stood in Sarah's living room, watching Emma open her 5th birthday presents. The medication and therapy were helping. The new job, smaller but honest and fulfilling, was helping more. But mostly it was this, the unexpected family that had claimed him. The weekly dinners, the group texts, the knowledge that if he stumbled, someone would catch him. He'd framed Emma's napkin drawing. It hung in his new apartment, right next to the pressed dandelion and a photo from today's party. Sarah had asked him to be Emma's godfather, and he'd ugly cried right there in the cafe where they'd met. Yes, they still met there every Sunday. "You know the weirdest part?" Marcus said to Sarah as Emma demolished her birthday cake. "I've become the person who stops now. Last week I saw a kid crying in the parking lot, and instead of walking past, I stopped. Turned out his mom had locked the keys in the car and he was scared. Such a simple thing, but I could actually help. I could be that person." Sarah smiled, watching her daughter, her strange, intuitive, impossibly compassionate daughter, hold court among her friends. That's how it works. Kindness isn't a transaction. It's a contagion. We just have to be brave enough to be patient zero. In a world that often feels fractured and cold, where people walk past suffering scrolling through their phones, sometimes a child dreams of a stranger's pain. Sometimes a mother is brave enough to follow her daughter's impossible vision. Sometimes a man standing at the edge finds a reason to step back. And sometimes, just sometimes, a wilted dandelion changes everything. Emma looked up and caught Marcus's eye across the room. She grinned, that same knowing smile from the cafe, and held up a dandelion she'd brought in from the yard. Marcus smiled back, a real smile, the kind that reaches the eyes and means it. Just like the dream had promised.